Welcome to the Thursday edition of the Spark Creativity Teacher Podcast, a podcast for English teachers in search of creative teaching strategies. Whether you're new to the show or a longtime listener, I'm really glad you're here for this week's quick mini episode. Today, I want to highlight a useful tool Amanda Cardenas shared in a show this year called the Sesame Street Quiz. It's so versatile, so fun, and so helpful that I feel like it deserves a show all its own. So here we go. So Amanda has already shared with us how these Sesame Street quizzes work back in episode 267, but it was a very small part of a much longer show. So let's do a quick review and listen back.
A relatively open-ended assessment. I give something called Sesame Street quizzes. I'm waiting for Sesame Street to come copyright trademark police me for it. But I learned this in my undergrad. I learned it actually during student teaching, and a Sesame Street quiz is my go-to. So the quick and dirty of Sesame Street is I give my students 4 items, 3 of which are connected, and the other one is an outlier. So I might, if we go back to a Gatsby example, for whatever, let's say chapter 2, I might give them a quiz that says question number 1, Daisy, Jordan, floating, red. So the question is, which 3 are connected and why?
Yeah.
And which one is the outlier and why? So there are definitely details in there that are comprehension level, right? Like that you have to have read to know what is floating,
Yeah.
who is Jordan, and who is
to do
Daisy.
with anything?
But yeah, exactly. And like, could you look those 3 things or 4 things up individually on SparkNotes or ChatGPT or whatever? Sure, you could look them all up, but like it takes a reading of chapter 2 to be able to put the pieces together.
Yeah.
And what's really cool on the back end of grading these is that you really get a sense of not just did kids read or didn't they read, but are they putting the pieces of the story together?
Okay, so now that we had that quick review of how a Sesame Street quiz works, let's talk about some other ways to use it. It's definitely a fantastic way to check in with kids about the reading, see whether they're doing the reading, see how they're processing the reading. But you could also use it in that way outside of the quiz format. A Sesame Street question could make a great bell ringer or discussion warm-up. You could have your students work on this alone or with a partner, making their decisions, justifying their choices. It could also make for a really intriguing way to review before a final exam. The end of the year is coming up. Maybe you could invite students to consider all the key texts of your term and choose which ones go together and which one feels like an outlier, and then explain why. That could be a very fun way to look back, sort of think back through each text of the term and how they all connect. A Sesame Street question could also lead into a one-pager assessment. You could have your kids create a visual representation of the 3 that group together, integrating quotations, analysis, explanation with their visuals, and then showing the one that doesn't fit, right? And explaining kind of why are these 3 together? Why does this one not together through both visuals and analysis? A Sesame Street question could also be a helpful exit ticket. This could help you see how your students digested the material from the lesson if you've been deep diving into a text. Okay, I bet you can think of lots more uses as well, but however you use it, this week I just want to highly recommend that you give a Sesame Street question or quiz a try as soon as you can.